So could you tell us something about how they started off and your entry into the organization?
Okay. Yeah. Before, I think since each of them were very powerful individuals and they were also doing their own consulting, they actually had individual firms which were there. So, it was quite a interesting kind of time then, that there was no one entity which, as we know today, there was no BARSYL as we know today. Mr. Shankar Narayan, who was a mechanical engineer, had his consulting firm called Askus Technical Services.
Okay.
My dad, who was from the civil engineering side, had his company called Railroad Engineering. That's engineering services. And Mr. Arjun Prasad, of course, he was working as an independent. So when they came together, one was this individual businesses were still running. They had to merge them. They had no clue how to go about it. So they inadvertently started another company where all three were partners called Balaji Railroad Corporate Consultants.
Okay, let me understand this. They're all retired from the railways?
Yes.
At the same time, they had floated their own...
Exactly.
Okay,
more,
independent...
more not to act as individual consultants. So they created literally proprietorship kind of companies.
Oh,
so
very
that
interesting.
They could, because so that's also, they really didn't know the implications of what companies formation and things like that. But somehow they floated this third company, which was originally, which is the precursor to what we are today. Balaji Railroad Corporate Consultants Private Limited was the company they floated. But they still didn't know how to merge and mix the expertise from other areas. And that point of time, yes, I was still not involved, but then I used to interact with them quite often and, generally more to understand what they were doing and to see how we could help them. But then they were also continuing to do individual businesses, so-called names, and also this. So that was a big confusion as to how the businesses should be shared and how, the expertise from one company could get transferred and things like that. So it is in that scenario where actually I got a little involved. So my involvement, though not on a full-time basis, but kind of started off there, because when they were doing this, I said, fine, this is all fine, but when do you think your individual companies will close? Or, what do you do with that? So that is the time they also were clueless. So I told them that I think first thing what you need to do is get all the expertise into one umbrella, because otherwise you will still have this confusion and commercially also each of them will be billing separately and things like that. So that is where I kind of guided them. I told them that this is it. Till that time I still had no clue that I would be eventually joining that company.
For them it was the second innings.
Exactly.
For you it was the beginning of your
career. So I was not even sure, because frankly I didn't even look at this whether it could make a career for me, because that point of time railway industry or railway consulting industry was virtually non-existent. So I was not even sure whether I could look at it as a long-term career. For them, like you rightly said, it was good. It was second innings, so even if it fails, there is absolutely nothing to worry about. But for me, it was a big risk. But then one of these days, yes, when they merged together and things like that, certain businesses started coming to them, because collectively. And that is the time where then they decided that, okay, if we need to do something, we need to grow. But they were also scared of growth. So that is the time they said that, no, we are not very sure whether we should take up new businesses or we should just refuse business. I said, who does that? So I said, nobody refuses business. But then they said, no, we don't want to add on more people. We don't want to get into that nitty-gritty and all that. And it's just left it there kind of thing.
So it was a challenge for you to get all these people together.
True. First of all, to make business sense itself. Correct. Though I was an outsider, so at least I could tell them something. But for me to jump into it was very, very difficult at that point of time, because I didn't see it as a sustainable business, frankly, that point. And also for me, I was happily working with a multinational, and then I switched to an advertising industry. So there at least I was having some regularity of income. Now here I was not even sure whether I would get that, because I knew how they were operating, where they were, I don't think they were able to meet their expenses also, or barely meeting their expenses. So I was worried that, so I didn't even offer. But then one of those days when this discussion came that, we are not sure whether we should take more business. So I said, but then see, this is your passion and you kind of set up these things. So it's not right for you to close, anything which you've done out of interest, even 4 or 5 years or something like that, it's not proper for you to close. So that is something where I got a little more involved emotionally with that, they put in their hard blood into it for whatever time. So it's not right for somebody to close this kind of business.
So how was it to get so many senior citizens and experienced professionals to listen to your point of view?
In fact, that was my first question when they asked me that, we have a choice, either we shut down or you take over, or you run it. I said, why me? Well, that was my first question. Is there nobody else around? Because Mr. Arjun Prasad had two sons. Mr. Shankar had a son. Mr. Arjun Prasad's son were working for MNCs. Mr. Shankar son, of course, was younger to me. But yes, he was also, doing something in the IT industry. So I said, why only me, kind of thing. Somehow they said, no, since you've shown some interest, whatever. So, and others are not really interested in, they're too late in their careers and things like that. Not even interested in, because Mr. Arjun Prasad's son were in Bombay. I was the only one who was in Hyderabad. So that became the other kind of attraction for them. So when they told me this, I said, see, frankly, if I need to do something, if I need to run, my first question, like you rightly said, was that how will I handle you?
Exactly.
For me, that will be a challenge. Plus, I don't understand railways because I've been using railways more as a passenger. And so I know only from the outside part of it. So that amalgamation of the companies was my first test, which I told them that if you do this, I didn't tell them that I was testing them, but when they readily agreed, I realized that they were open to ideas. So that gave me the confidence that yes, if they are willing to listen to me, then yes, definitely they are more open to these kind. And I think yes, I would say my fears were unfounded. They were much more open. So when we did have a frank talk in terms of, when they told me that, okay, why don't you join? I said, okay, I'll do a step at a time. So I'll first take care of the physical part in terms of where you're traveling or where you're going out to other locations. I'll handle that because that is more, not so much of technical stuff. It is more on supervisory stuff. I said, let me handle that first. So that will also reduce some amount of burden from your side and also give me an insight into how things happen and give good learning from me. So that is how I got sucked in, I would say.